Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to Sunday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. I have been ever since I saw Tom Baker, nearly forgot his name, Tom Baker become Peter Davison. Then I skipped the Colin Baker era and the Sylvester McCoy era. Loved Doctor Who the movie, warts and all, and absolutely adored initially Russell T Davies' revival. I'm so grateful to Russell T Davies for giving me that. You know, a highly budgeted, well written, well performed Doctor Who with an after show which was called Doctor Who Confidential. How exciting was that? I also loved a lot of the Stephen Moffat era. I personally wasn't a fan of the Chibnall era. Now, no matter how bad Doctor Who gets, no matter how divisive Doctor Who gets, I will always watch it because I'm a Doctor Who fan. That doesn't mean if you're a Doctor Who fan who's decided to boycott the show, I have a problem with you. I don't. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from. I will watch Doctor Who till the bitter end, which wasn't my attitude when I wasn't watching the Colin Baker era and the Sylvester McCoy era. But the revival really ingrained Doctor Who in my veins, and it would be very difficult for me to ignore Doctor Who. But I do believe, as much of a hero as Russell T Davies is to me, and he is a creative hero to me, because he brought back Doctor Who, revived it, because it was literally dead before he got involved, although there was always Big Finish, right? I do believe, though, that he came back for all the wrong reasons, because to my knowledge, Sally Wainwright, the creator and writer of Happy Valley, was going to take over Doctor Who. It was all over the trades. It was pretty well known within the industry. My friends within the industry were telling me the same thing. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what I was reading and that's what I was being told by my people. Now, Sally Wainwright would be perfect to run Doctor Who. Yes, more than likely, considering I think everything she's ever done, I think, is normally got a female lead, you know, there would have been a big chance we would have had a female Doctor. But a female Doctor that everyone could live with, and the writing would have been top tier. If you've watched Happy Valley, written by Sally and starring Sarah Lancashire, you'll know what I'm talking about, right? It's my belief and my opinion now that actually Doctor Who would have been better off if Sally Wainwright took over Doctor Who instead of Chibbers, instead of Chris Chibnall. Now, this week it's been very, very interesting because Russell T Davies has been doing a lot of spin doctoring. For example, he was asked if they're going to bring back the Doctor Who experience, and he said, once bitten, twice shy, and, saying it didn't work and it didn't make money. But why, Russell? Why didn't it make money? From the moment the Chibnall era started, that's when the money started going down the pan. People stopped going because the love and excitement for Doctor Who was gone, right? When Moffat was running it, even when people didn't like the Moffat era so much, and when you were running it in your first original era, the excitement was there. I can't remember when it started. Maybe it started during the Moffat era, right? But it was making money initially. When the show became bland and uninteresting, people became disinterested in Doctor Who. Russell, what's the lesson there, Mr. Davies, Mr. RTD, Mr. Spin Doctor? Make great Doctor Who. Don't divide the fans, right? Don't bite the hand that feeds you, which is us, the fans. Then you can have a thriving Doctor Who experience. You, Disney and the BBC can make a lot of money. Then, secondly, he said, well, we did have to have a partnership with Disney because the BBC will go out of business eventually, right? Very nice. I'm sure the BBC really appreciate him talking like that. But surely you wait till something goes out of business before you need to go into partnership with something. But that's neither here nor there. It's funny when people were going into his Instagram having a go at him. over the Davros coming out of the prosthetics and the wheelchair, he was blocking people no matter how constructive the conversations were. But he's doing this, he's freely coming out and trying to justify the partnership with Disney. I don't have a problem with Russell T Davies, Bad Wolf Productions and the BBC going into business with another production company, you know, a big Hollywood studio, right? Because it gives you more money and you should be able to have more production values. But it's the identity of that studio that's a problem, because Russell T Davies now understands the public hate Disney. The public have a distrust of modern day Disney, because Disney is everything that's wrong with New Hollywood. I can bet you $1 billion and I'd be a very rich man, because I believe I'm right about this. It was Disney who wanted that line to be said in the first special, right? Star Beast, you know, about the male presenting Time Lord. Of course it was. Of course they wanted, you know, a minority actor to be playing the Doctor. That was their decision as well. Now, I believe Ncuti Gatwa is a very, very talented young actor and deserves, you know, his role on the show. No question. But these were their decisions. There's no question about it. And it's funny, you know, when they were speaking about, when Russell was speaking about the Christmas special, saying it was their idea to have more, you know, they didn't like the fact of having too less of the Doctor and too much of the companion. So it had to change. And it's like Russell T Davies was trying to convince us, you see, they have good ideas. You see, back in the early days of the revival in the Moffat era, it was kind of an unspoken secret that they believed the companion was the star of the show, not the Doctor. Name me one Doctor Who fan who would watch Doctor Who without the Doctor or the TARDIS. No one. That's the whole fucking reason we watch the show, right? Now, the companion's an interesting way of, being our eyes and ears into the story, but that has become old hat now. And they only used to do that because the companion is female. So they want to uplift the female over the male lead. Well, now we've got a Doctor of colour, the female companion won't be as important for obvious reasons, right? And I don't even need to say anything more about that. Fine, brilliant. That's good for me as a Doctor Who fan, because I always want to see the Doctor front and centre of every story more than the companion. To me, the companion should never be the star of the show. That's my opinion. And so he tried to blag the whole thing about Disney, and you know, he clearly is concerned that fans are not happy about the partnership with Disney, so he's trying to justify that situation. Now, if you notice, it's very bright behind me. I do apologise. It's a very, very sunny morning. It's actually Saturday, even though this will be posted on Sunday. It's Saturday morning around 7:23, and it's really, really sunny. The clocks go forward here in Cyprus today, as they will be in the UK, of course. So, yeah, all of a sudden it's warmer, it's sunnier, which is good for me, and I'm excited. But the videos are not going to look as good because it's just a basic HD camera. I don't have all the gadgets. As you know, I'm a very basic content creator. That's why I'm not a very successful content creator. Anyway, let's go back to Sally Wainwright, the creator and showrunner and writer of Happy Valley, a compelling, amazing drama, right? She's a great writer. There's no question about that. And as I said earlier, it's my belief that Sally probably should have ran the show instead of Chibnall. And I think if Sally ran the show instead of Chibnall, she may still be, you know, the head writer for Doctor Who today. Because I don't know about you, but I don't care if the Doctor's white, black, a woman, a hedgehog, right? That shit isn't important to me. Who the Doctor is isn't important. As long as they've got warmth and personality and can act, and they're trained actors, and they can do it. They can perform the Doctor, right? And they can inject their personality in the role. That's always been the most important thing about the Doctor, in years gone by. And the most successful versions of the Doctor have all had that. If the show isn't well written and the person isn't there because they want to be there, there's no point. Russell T Davies wanted to revive Doctor Who. It wasn't the BBC's idea to revive Doctor Who. It was Russell T Davies' idea to revive Doctor Who. He wanted to bring it back. He was a huge fan. His friends Chris Chibnall, Stephen Moffat, right? Mark Gatiss, all these people were all part of that group, that gang. They all loved Doctor Who, they had ideas, and we saw those ideas, and they were wonderful, and they were beautiful, and they brought life. You know, they brought life into Doctor Who, and they brought it kicking and screaming into the modern era. And that was fantastic. But I believe that Russell T Davies is back now for all the wrong reasons. You know, people insulted his good friend Chris Chibnall, and he's very, very angry. We've spoken about this before. But his anger doesn't interest me. He's trying to, let's say, convince everyone that he's really right on. You know, I don't like the word woke the way it's used today anyway, because woke is supposed to be a good thing. It's been gaslit, hasn't it? So that meaning has changed. I don't really like using the word woke. I do use it now and again so my audience understands what I'm trying to refer to. Russell T Davies isn't woke in terms of today. He's kind of woke in the way it used to mean. And so when he used to run Doctor Who, there was a lot of messaging there, but it wasn't blatant. It wasn't bashing you over the head. The story and the characters always came first. So Doctor Who isn't, Russell T Davies isn't woke, right? In the meaning of the word that we know of today. But, of course, Disney are very extreme left, and we know you know, their views are very extremist, as we know. So he's got to pretend that he thinks the same way that they think, right? So he injected certain things into his Doctor Who. So I believe the male presenting Time Lord line was down to them. And I believe, you know, taking Davros out of the wheelchair was their idea, not his. Because he said on an episode of Doctor Who Confidential, you know, after bringing Davros back in the fourth series of the revival, that he said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. When he was asked, did you ever consider changing anything about Davros? And he said, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. It's there. That video has been, you know, shown and leaked by many, many fans on social media. And quite right too. That really proves that Disney are behind all of this. And does that mean we shouldn't be angry with Russell T Davies? Look, I don't know what to say anymore. The industry's changed. Even the people who we saw as good and not a problem in the past have become a problem now. They all seem to be talking the same shit. They seem to all be playing the same fiddle, don't they? And you know, I'm not saying that Sally Wainwright doesn't have the same mentality, but what does she do? 3 or 4 series of Happy Valley? And, you know, obviously the villains in that show were men, but, you know, it was still done really, really well. You know, and it was a focus on women and, you know, a woman's point of view in the world we live in. And that's okay, because it's done in the right way. And her writing is so sharp and so solid and so amazing. I really like Sally Wainwright. I don't even think she probably is a Doctor Who fan, but I think if it was true that they were going to give her the gig before RTD came wading in, I would have liked to have seen that. And as I say, I don't care what gender or what colour the Doctor is. That's not important to me. I just want my hero, whether it's a man or woman, trans, whatever, I don't care. I don't care about the identity of the Doctor. I care that the person playing the Doctor feels like the Doctor. And we didn't have that with Jodie Whittaker. Jodie Whittaker got the gig because she was good friends with Chris Chibnall. If you're still in denial about that, that's up to you. Now, I believe that Jodie tried her best to do as she was told by her showrunner and friend. She didn't research the show. She wasn't a fan. You don't have to be a Doctor Who fan. I don't particularly think Christopher Eccleston was a huge Doctor Who fan. He knew of Doctor Who. He watched a few episodes, but he wasn't a fan. But he's the one, again, like Russell T Davies, who volunteered to play the Doctor. He wanted to play the Doctor. He did the auditions, even though he'd become one of the biggest, most famous actors, British actors in the world. He never said he wouldn't do an audition. So he's not a diva, just in case that's what you think, after everything that's happened between him, Russell T Davies, Julie Gardner and Phil Collinson. I think we all know who was at fault over all of that. But sometimes it's half of one and half a dozen of the other, isn't it? It was a very, very toxic situation going on in the early stages of Doctor Who between those people, because it was a very ambitious, expensive show, and nobody on that show really knew what they were doing. In a continuing sci-fi drama with a lot of special effects, there was a lot of pressure, and I think the pressure just broke them all, and they took the frustrations out on each other. That's only natural. Just imagine your own workplaces. So if you argue with your work colleagues, why should you expect people in the entertainment industry to be any different? It doesn't make any sense, does it? And this is why I'm surprised at people getting surprised when people don't get on when they're making a film or a television drama, because it's only natural sometimes to clash with people and not get on. Why should we hold them to different rules than we hold ourselves to? But the point is, I don't mind the entertainment industry being an immoral piece of shit industry. Just don't talk down to your public. It's not right, because you've got further to fall morally than we have. There's no question about that. So I think that Sally Wainwright would have been perfect after Stephen Moffat. But that country club, the Russell T Davies Country Club, continue to have a stranglehold on Doctor Who. And from what we've seen thus far, right, since Russell's come back, it hasn't, it's not what we thought it was going to be. When he first came back, of course I was excited. I loved his era. I was naive, even though we were in current day, I must admit. I was naive, and then slowly but surely, as he got his feet under the table again, I did start to get concerned, and there were some red flags there, and I was absolutely concerned, and my fears came true. And my first red flag was when he brought back Catherine Tate. Then I knew we had a problem, because I knew he would have to red pill what happened to her, at the end of his original run. He gave her this beautiful, wonderful, tragic ending, and he red-pilled it. And that's a shame. Now, all of a sudden, everything's fine. Even worse, the solution to that tragic ending, and how she remembers the Doctor again, is the most pathetic thing I have ever seen in Doctor Who history or anything else ever dramatised in my life. The whole idea of her child and the connection and all of that, and it was, let's just say, it was really, really on the nose, but it was a dumb way to do it. When we thought she'd died in the Star Beast episode, and the Doctor thinks she's dead, I knew she wasn't dead. It was all very, very predictable. So, I think they did some commentary, RTD did some commentary with some others, and we fooled people. You didn't fool anyone. It's like when he smugly fooled us all into thinking that David Tennant was going to be the full-time Doctor. Well, no, but it was obvious you were going to bring him back. It's the only card you had to play. Doctor Who was in the mud thanks to the underwhelming era from Chris Chibnall. So you just brought back the most popular Doctor of this era, of this revival. Personally, I think a bigger box office would have been Chris Eccleston coming back as the Doctor, but then I prefer him to David Tennant. I think David Tennant is a wonderful Doctor. I think Matt Smith's a brilliant Doctor, Peter Capaldi. But Christopher Eccleston's a fucking superstar. He's just been on an HBO series, the fourth series of True Detective with Jodie Foster. You don't get better than that. That shows you, after being blacklisted by the BBC, he still got to act with Jodie Foster. Don't you think that's amazing? Doesn't that show you how big Christopher Eccleston is? And the way they treated him was disgusting. No question about that. Despite blacklisting Christopher Eccleston, he still follows Noel Clarke, RTD, on Instagram, and we know what happened with Noel Clarke. So that, again, proves to you, in terms of the meaning of the word woke today, Russell T Davies isn't woke. He's just pretending to be. You're thinking, but I thought you said this guy's your hero. He is for what he was, not what he is today. But maybe this is who Russell T Davies always was. He wants power. When you gain power, success makes an interesting bedfellows. Your mentality changes. Success changes people for the worse. The entertainment industry changes people for the worse. There's no question. Now he's very popular. And I think if you think about the film Spider-Man 3, which isn't a very, very popular film, I'm not changing the subject, I'm just giving you an example. In Spider-Man 3, because in Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man from Sam Raimi, and Spider-Man 2, we see a very humble Peter Parker. But in Spider-Man 3, the fame and adulation is getting to him. So when Venom infects him, he gets even worse. But the arrogance got inside him already. And, this brings consequences to his friends, Harry and MJ, Mary Jane. And you can see his arrogance goes too far. And by the end of the film, he becomes that humble young man again. Fame and adulation does this to us. Well, not me, but to people that it gets to. I don't think anyone gets out of the fame game in one piece. Whether you become a drug addict or an alcoholic because of it, or you become arrogant and twisted and a bit bitter, it affects all people, And, I know people in the entertainment industry, some very successful, famous people. And, you may think, oh, well, they're rich and famous. Well, big deal. We're supposed to feel sorry for them. But I want you to imagine being in that world and being controlled by big companies and not having freedom, not being able to go out. It seems like a good idea at the time, but it does affect you badly in the end. And everyone has problems, whether you're rich or poor. And obviously, if you're working class, you're not really going to feel sorry for rich, successful celebrities. And I get you. I'm just explaining to you why a lot of them suffer with depression, alcohol, drug abuse. Some of them even end up taking their lives. It's not a good life. You may think you would want it, but believe you me, and you may be insulted by me saying this, you're better off trying to work out how you're going to pay your bills from month to month, right? Believe you me. I've seen it. It's not a nice world. But back to RTD and Doctor Who. So I don't believe, even though I believed Russell T Davies coming back was good and Doctor Who was in good hands again, I don't believe right now Doctor Who is in the best of hands. Now, we're getting a trailer for Doctor Who and a list of episode titles on Sunday. So we will talk about that when that happens. Even Sunday, because this is supposed to be Sunday's episode of the Movies TV Mad Daily. But I'm on Saturday. I'm recording this on Saturday, so I'm calling it Sunday. But really, it's today, because you're seeing this video today, right? So I do apologise, yeah. Bit difficult to get myself in that frame of mind. But yeah, so basically today we're going to see the episode titles. It's very timey-wimey, isn't it? But we're going to see the episode titles and we're going to get a little trailer. Don't expect much of a trailer. Of course, Doctor Who returns for 8 episodes in May. And as I said on the top of the show, no matter how divisive and how bad, in my opinion, the episodes get and the show gets, I will carry on being a loyal fan. But that doesn't mean I won't be honest about what I'm seeing. I will always be honest about Doctor Who or anything I watch. I set up this channel to have my say. No matter how few people are watching my platform, I will continue to say my piece and be honest, because that's why the very few people who follow my platform follow me for straight talk. Straight in the eyes, straight on the nose talk. I'm not here to support, trillion-dollar companies and millionaire creatives. I'm here for you and me, because I think if Doctor Who isn't good enough, if it is divisive, like those not so specials were, and there wasn't much imagination. It was like we were watching, previous Russell T Davies episodes, and sometimes he was ripping off other people's episodes from the Moffat era as well. Like, Wild Blue Yonder was such a rip-off of Matthew Graham's Ganga two-parter. And it was so blatant. He doesn't have any new ideas. All I'm seeing so far is gimmicks, and cheap gimmicks at that. I want to be wrong. I hope these new 8 episodes are awesome and great, and this is a wonderful new era of Doctor Who. But at the very least, Sally Wainwright would have given us something different. Maybe something a bit grittier. Maybe, but it would have been interesting. And as I said, also on the top of the show, imagine Sarah Lancashire as the Doctor, or another really well-trained actor, female actor. It still could have worked, right? And the reason, I think that Sally Wainwright was attached to Doctor Who in the first place, because it's a new direction. It's something fresh. We're not going to get anything fresh from Russell T Davies. All we're going to get is a rebrand, right? We've got an attractive young female companion in Millie Gibson. Now, I've seen the latest poster for Doctor Who Picture, and she's not even part of it. They've got Ncuti standing by the TARDIS door. They're not even using her that much for the promotion anymore, because she's already gone. They've replaced her as a companion. I think she leaves in the middle of the second series. So I don't know what went wrong there, considering that they waited until the end of the second season until Billie Piper left. Billie Piper was a good soldier. Billie Piper wanted to leave at the end of the first series with Christopher Eccleston, but she was tied in to a second series, right? It doesn't, the irony isn't lost on me that last year she was at a con with Christopher Eccleston while he sat there slating, those producers, including RTD. And she was sitting there smiling. She wasn't exactly saying, "Oh no, Chris, that's not true." And that tells you where Billie Piper stands in terms of RTD and what went on. She may publicly support him, but she sat there with a guy slating RTD. So that tells you everything you need to know. So it's like when I talk about James Gunn and DC and the Superman film. Even though James Gunn wouldn't have been my choice to write and direct the Superman film or to run the creative arm of DC Studios, I wish him all the best. I want it to be successful. Now, in terms of Russell T Davies, I do love him as a creative, but he isn't filling me with a great deal of confidence, and I don't feel he's back for the right reasons, and that's why I think that Sally Wainwright would have given us something bolder, something new, and at least it would have been different. But in all honesty, I do feel that Doctor Who does need a break. I do. And it does need a rethink. And it's very difficult to make good Doctor Who in current day with the messaging they want to push. And I think that something else that's very interesting now, and it's, activist investor Nelson Peltz has got this civil war with Bob Iger and the Disney board. He's trying to get a couple of seats on that board, and he's nearly kind of won that battle. I wonder how Russell T Davies feels about that, because he had no idea that Peltz was going to, try and get a say-so on how Disney and everything he owns is being run. And he's already, it's clear, he's right-wing, and it shouldn't matter what his politics are, but I think he's already spoken up that he doesn't like the direction that Disney films and streaming are going in. And I think we all know what he was attempting to say. So if he does win his civil war to get a couple of seats on the Disney board, things are going to change everywhere, including Doctor Who. What happens then? Because it's not as easy as you think for Russell T Davies and Doctor Who to move away from Disney. Or maybe RTD doesn't care. As long as the money keeps on coming in, who's running Disney? But we know Russell T Davies' politics. He is left-wing. So it would be very, very interesting if this activist investor, Nelson Peltz, just does win his battle to get a couple of seats on the Disney board. Because as I say, things will change. It's very, very interesting and ever-changing situation in entertainment. And with Doctor Who, anything can happen. And it'll be very, very interesting how people receive this new series coming up in May.